So here we are back. These have dried and I'm going to add some more. So to finish off these two, this side is in the front, so I'm going to make this, keep this edge light and this darker. And on this one, I'll just make the whole thing light. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint that. And then you don't have to worry about when they're dry already, you don't have to worry about one going in the other. See how I can kind of clean that edge off with the watercolor a little bit, which is really good. I like using a flat brush like this. It gives a lot of control, but if you prefer a round brush, that's fine too. And then make sure this is wet because I want to drip that darker color in the middle and then let it spread just a little bit out. So that'll just spread on its own. Over here, so I'll do the same over here, but here, this edge isn't quite light enough, so I just want to show you that with just plain water, you can, it depends on the color, many colors, you can just pick up by just adding water. So in water, now I'm squeezing out the brush and then going back in, and it just lifts. This is called lifting. Just lifts it up so that there's more differentiation between these two petals. And then I'm just going to smooth it out by re-wetting almost the whole thing. If I wanted a little more differentiation there, again, I can put water. See how it lightened already? I'm squeezing the brush out and then going back and lifting it out. And you can get just, you know, a stronger edge there. I could probably lift a little more here. This part has to be dry to do this. Otherwise it'll just bleed together. That's kind of good. Okay, another tip, so, you know, go ahead and paint that. Another tip for the center, I'm going to try a ballpoint pen. Mixed media is kind of fun. At one point we talked about just filling the center with little circles however you want. It can be very effective. I don't have any rhyme or pattern to this. Sometimes you can do a pattern where the outside is very tiny little circles and then they get bigger in the center, or vice versa. You could start bigger out here if you wanted to and then go smaller as you get to the center. But in this one, it's just all pretty random. And I can put watercolor just on top of the ballpoint pen. And the little shapes will show, the little round circles will show. Now you can get as dark or detailed as you want. You could go in between some of these and darken if you wanted to. You can just go around them many times. You want it to really show as kind of an interesting center. You can do almost anything in the middle here. And then it's orange already, but we could add maybe yellow on top, and then the orange will show through. I can add yellow-green on top, but a color that's lighter. And then you have a nice center there. Don't forget the leaf. You can use the same petal cutout and create the leaf, or you can draw your own. You have all kinds of choices. See if I can find the petal cutout. Here we go. If I use a petal, I like to use the same one as a leaf, because then there's a reflection and an echoing of the same shapes. So I would start by just drawing a partial stem. In this case, I think the leaf needs a stem. So I would come down, and I like to let the leaf kind of grow out of the stem. So sometimes I give it like a little sepal. And then I'm making a stem come out. Now I'm going to decide, where would this look the best? Maybe about there. So I'm going to trace what used to be a petal, and then I have a nice leaf shape. And then you'll see how this kind of fits together. I could add one on the other side if I wanted to, but I can continue this one down. And then see how this just kind of feels like it grows out of this by having just that little detail. If you don't close up right there, because you trace it, it gives you the opportunity to draw in, and you can draw veins. You can do stylized veins if you want. I'm just sort of heading in the direction of the point here. And these are very stylized veins. There's many more different ways you could do this. And then the vein then feeds back into the stem, which is really nice. And then you can paint it. So you get that kind of continuity this way. I could paint the inside of the leaf yellow. Here's what we do to make use of the beauty of the transparency in watercolor. I can go carefully in here, yellow, and then I would paint over the entire thing with green, and it'll be a lighter green or yellow green where it goes over the yellow. I would let the yellow dry, of course. I think I'll give it a little yellow there. I can also put just sort of a streak of yellow somewhere on the stem. I'm not going to leave it yellow. I'm going to use it, I'm going to use the transparency of the watercolor. That's a nice little trick. Okay, so let's get this to dry. Dry, 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 dry. I can go back here and paint while I'm letting it dry. Maybe add a little bit stronger yellow in here if I wanted to. I can also paint while I'm waiting for that to dry. I can paint my last petal over here. That might be a good idea. I'm going to keep this side light, that side darker. I just dipped into the paint, so I'm going to start here. It's dark, so I'm going to come up here and let that edge be dark. I will go right up to the edge at some point. You can leave like a little line, but in this case I think I won't. And now I want it to be lighter than that, so I'm going to add more water and come in here so that it's that light against it. Now, it looks like the petal, when I painted it before, kind of came in there, so just now I was able to move that out of the way with just the wet brush. This color just happens to lift pretty well. Some colors will not lift, so you have to kind of play around with it. So we've got that, we've got light, dark, light, dark. I think I'll go darker on this edge a little bit. Again, I added a little bit of green to my purple, get it darker. And it really only stays where it's supposed to stay when it's wet. So I can do that. And that will just kind of bleed in nicely. Here's my chance to go in and touch up anything if I want to. Looks like I could clean up this edge slightly, so I'm going to go over it with water. I'm going to squeeze the water out of my brush like I did before, and then lift on the edge. Now when I do this, I can't go back and touch the other one or I'll mess it up again. So I could go back, and I don't think I need to. I think it'll be okay. All right, assuming that's dry, which I am assuming that is dry, I'm going to take just a nice green, and I can test it out over here, see how dark it's going to be. Okay, it's pretty good. so that when I go over the yellow, it should stay a lighter color on that side. See how the yellow shows through? I hope it shows on camera. So this will give me a lighter green. So this is using the transparency of the watercolor rather than mixing that yellow green. And here's where it will be most dramatic. Now, if I didn't have those dark outlines, it might even be more dramatic. You see that that center part remains a lighter yellow, remains a yellow-green, a lighter green in those vein areas. And I just painted straight over it. Now, if I had done that without outlining first, if I were not demoing, this would still work. So I can also go back, I can pick up a little if I want, a couple of spots. See that yellow coming through? It's very nice. Okay, so, I knew my little, I guess it's a little sepal. And I think I'll go ahead and add just a couple of darker streaks here on the stem. You can go very dark up here because the petal will be casting a shadow on the green. And go darker. So, happy painting!